Do you want me to? Chris.
Stephanie, how are you? Happy Monday to you. Give me some sort of terrifically good news on a Monday. How was your weekend? Tell me something.
It was super, super fun. My daughter and I went to a concert, and it was only 45 cents to get in.
Really? Only
Yeah, do you know who was playing?
Mm-mm.
It was 50 Cent featuring Nickelback.
That's so bad.
I did it. I got it in before you did.
Oh, it's funny because I went to a concert as well.
Oh,
And
did you?
I was standing in line, and the person came in and cut in front of me. You know what I yelled at him? I'm after you now. Oh, well, Stephanie, on that note, what psychological patterns drive lead nurturing success? Here is a surprising statistic that we've come up with. 68% of leads abandon ship before conversion. 68% of leads. It actually seems low to me. When Active Campaign founder Jason Vandeboom discovered prospects needed 7 touch points before buying, he flipped his entire nurturing strategy. This insight explains why most founders lose leads. They quit too early or push too hard. The psychology of lead nurturing isn't about persistence. It's about understanding the invisible emotional journey every prospect takes. Today, Stephanie, on How to Founder, we're talking about nurturing leads. I am your host, Chris Franks. With me is once again the incredibly talented and currently blonde, but not much longer. Is that what I heard? Is that we said? Yeah. But we're joined by, I'm going to say, the incredibly articulate Roger Martin. We decided that Roger could be a radio host with that thing. And Roger Martin is a CEO and co-founder of RockBox Fitness and Thrive More Autopilot, a lead nurturing company, a former pharmaceutical COO who led sales teams of 500 plus people. You look too relaxed to have led sales teams of 500 plus people. Usually people are bald like me if you've led that many.
I'm only 32 though, so look at my hair. Yeah.
That's
Same with us. Oh my goodness. I just
amazing.
turned 32 last week.
Roger has mastered scaling operations, strategic selling, and franchise development. He's also the host of the Thrive More podcast, where he interviews leaders on business, health, and wealth. Author and high-stakes poker enthusiast, Roger shares battle-tested insights on building national brands, negotiating win-win partnerships, and cultivating resilient mindsets that fuels entrepreneurial success. Roger, before we talk about lead nurturing, what is the most you've ever lost in a poker hand? If it's high stakes,
in a hand?
Yeah, like one hand. Did you go all in? It was like $1 billion.
No. Probably 11 or 12 grand in one hand.
That's a lot. Yeah. Stephanie, you play poker?
I do actually, but I have a friend who's she's actually in the World Series of Poker. She's ranked.
Yeah.
And she would always have these bad beats, and she would always get so close, and she had some wins, but it was many years of playing poker. And then one night she was, drinking with some friends or something, and she went on the BC Lottery's website and played one round of slots and won $1 million.
Oh my gosh, look at that. See?
Yeah. So all these years of strategic poker,
just spin the wheel,
ranked, and then she wins her fortune in online slots.
Both of World you would Series love to play poker with me because I would just donate my money to you guys. However, I want to just talk a little bit about lead nurturing.
Sure.
So first of all, Roger, you started a company with this. You're an expert in this area. What is the thing that we get wrong most of the time as founders? How do we think about this incorrectly?
Yeah, the simple answer to that is we assume that the lead who filled out a form, who raised their hand, had an inbound call, answered an outbound call, whatever it is, we assume that they're ready to buy and that they already know, like, and trust us. And those are the mistakes I see most businesses make, other than the just the worst mistake, the critical mistake is not calling and following up and having automations and drips and whatnot, where it just surprises me how few businesses have their funnel dialed in and optimized. But we assume that they are ready to buy and that they trust us. And there is a trust recession in the world today, not just in America, but in the world. There's a trust recession for all kinds of reasons. And one of them is that we're bombarded with marketing messages nonstop from television and radio, and of course social media. It used to be like every fifth or sixth thing in your feed was an ad. Now it's every other one, and sometimes it's two ads together, because they're selling so much inventory now. So we're just bombarded with nonstop marketing messages, and we have to have that filter up. As a species, we have to have that filter up, or our brain will explode. And so a lot of founders, they're so proud of their company. His or her company to that person is everything, and we expect it to be everything to that prospect, when in reality the prospect's just hoping, hey, can you solve this one problem I have, because I've got 13 other problems, but I just need this problem solved. Can you help me with that? Whereas the founder they live and breathe in that business every day, and so it's just always and obviously so much more important to the founder than it is that lead or that prospect, until you nurture them and make it as important to them. Yeah.
I want to ask a dumb question, but because it really does matter as far as how we frame up the rest of this conversation.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Stephanie, what's a lead in your mind? What do you consider to be a lead? And then Roger, I want you to answer the same thing.
Sure.
A lead is an opportunity to convert, right? And it could be a warm lead, it could be a cold lead, it could be at any state of progression through your quote unquote sales funnel. But a lead is just an opportunity, no matter what stage it's at.
So you would call, like, if I went out, and I don't think many people do this anymore, but you could buy an email list. Is that a lead, or Roger, is it to classify something as a lead? They have had to express some level of interest?
Right.
Yeah. So according to your sales guy or sales gal, they're going to tell you it's got to be qualified, and they're ready to go, and they've already moved through the funnel.
Sounds like you manage 500 plus sales.
Yeah. Once or twice I had these conversations. Truly, and I would agree with Stephanie that a lead is an opportunity, and then you stage gate that opportunity into different segments of your funnel. But it's a lead at the very top, which could be, I'm holding up if you're watching this or if you're listening to this, I'm holding up my phone. Every contact in my phone, family members, friends, colleagues, people from past jobs, that's a list of leads. That's a list of leads for a particular service or product you may sell. And that particular service or product may not apply to every single person in your phone, but you really want to start looking at the world in businesses as far as leads go, as anybody with a pulse and that can fog a mirror is a potential lead. Now, are they financially qualified? Maybe not. Do they actually need your product or service? The majority probably don't. But every opportunity to help somebody, and that's the difference. I think so many people, I want to sell something, I want them to buy something. Well, that's great. But if you focus on helping them, which is part of the lead nurture process, then they'll give you money. By default, they'll give you money. And if anybody listening to this can just walk away with a single fact that a lead is an opportunity to help somebody, it's a human being or it's a company that you can specifically help, that's a lead. Now, whether
I like the framing there to say that share some sort of a problem that you can address.
Yes.
And so if you can, as your company, your service, and if you're a services company, pretty much you can do anything. So, it's a challenge that have some sort of an addressable problem. And I like the framing of saying that you can help. So if we define it as somebody that we can help, now sort of we're talking about the psychology here. You started with what is just a huge, huge problem. And it's called the timing problem, which is we are sitting on the other side of a computer or a telephone or whatever else. We have no idea what's happening within this account, within this person. How much are they suffering this level of problem, et cetera. So just start to explain to me how this timing problem affects even our thinking around lead nurturing.
Yep. And let's just delineate, just for the record, that, a salesperson with poor persuasion influence skills will very quickly think it's not the right time for that prospect. And I would, I want to be on record saying that if a prospect, a lead, has raised their hand and said, I'd like to learn a little bit more about this. I'm going to fill out your lead form. Here's my real name, my real phone number, my real email. And they've responded to some direct response advertisement or visited your website and filled out a form there, or however you came across, some at a trade show, whatever, then there's enough of a problem that they need some help. There's enough of, or they would never have raised their hand, because nobody wants to get phone calls and emails that they don't need. So for sure, the old saying is, it's not when we're ready, it's when they're ready. And that's true as can be. It's been true forever. I would say that the key to successful founders and to growing their businesses is that you always must be filling up that pipeline. If you think of a funnel, literally an actual funnel, and you have different sources of leads coming in, be it direct response advertising, trade shows, organic reach out, social media, whatever it may be, to continue to fill the top of that with leads. Some of those leads may not be ready or in a position, financially in a position to make that decision, or just in their budgeting cycle, whatever it could be, but they continue to need to be nurtured and worked and given value. And that's something that so many businesses miss. Buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, versus, here, let me share some value. Hey, here's a resource that may help you. Here's a great article I just read that, when we talked 2 months ago, you'd mentioned something and I saw this and I thought of you, and here it is. No ask. Kind of the Gary V, jab, 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 right hook. And so, a long-winded answer to your very simple question is, it's when they're ready, but sometimes they don't know when they're ready. And that's why your funnel has to be so optimized to take them along that journey and to continue to remind them how they probably are experiencing a pain point in an area that you can help address. And so when you do have that engagement, you have that conversation or exchange, whatever it is, they're well aware that you can solve their problem. Because at some point, yeah.
Stephanie, what do you think?
So let me be devil's advocate here for a second, because I spend a lot of time in this world for sure. And I would say that sometimes you can train people to just want things for free, right? To just be like perpetually nurtured. So I think there's a little bit of like carrot and stick. And I would also argue that we're not waiting for people to be ready, because if we did, we would never make a sale.
Yep.
We have to show them they're ready, right? Like we have to, sometimes it's about borrowing my confidence that you can do what I'm suggesting that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes it's a little bit of like a, when you think about the buyer's journey, right? And they're at awareness, they're at education. And sometimes they need those decision-making, prods, which is like, you can get it for less money, or now's the time, or it's like, oh, it's the time, the money, the whatever. So can you speak a little bit towards those sort of psychological triggers, and how do we know when they're ready?
Yeah. A very fair point too, Stephanie. It's, I definitely don't want to advocate for, we just keep helping them until they finally tell us they want to buy something. By no means, I would be broke right now if that's the way I operated. You definitely have to be assertive. I wouldn't say aggressive, but assertive in the way you pursue your leads. And, we've all heard about scarcity and urgency. And I like to liken the way people make decisions about making a decision is always grounded in scarcity and urgency. And that's because of our DNA from being, cavemen and cavewomen, millions of years ago. If you didn't go out and hunt that day, or go out and scrounge for berries and roots and stuff that day, you didn't eat. And, there were only so many mates that were available, and there was only so much shelter that was naturally available back then. And so we are hardwired to know if we don't take action, then we could run out of what we need, be it food or a mate or a tribe that, if we don't have, we'll get kicked out. And we need to make sure that we go hunt and go find a mate and all that, and do that with urgency, or we may not have it. And that is still so hardwired in us, because think about car dealerships that sell cars, that they have a Memorial Day sale. And if you're not in the market for a car, you never see those ads anyway. But once you're in the market, your reticular activating system kicks in and you start seeing all these sales, and you're very well aware of it now. Well, of course, hey, you got to buy Saturday through Monday. That's when we have our best deals on these cars, and there's only so many cars on the lot. And, if you want your color and your combination, your option package, get in here this weekend, and definitely get in by Monday for Memorial Day, in the States. But we know darn well that there's going to be a 4th of July sale that's the same thing. And we know darn well there's going to be a Labor Day sale that's the same thing, and then a President's sale. But we still respond to that advertising. It still drives behavior, because we're hardwired. You can even know it in being well steeped in sales techniques and persuasion influence. We all, me included, will still be influenced by approaches that include scarcity and urgency. And so the question you asked around, how do you get people to kind of speed up that process, is you start to talk about the impact of not having urgency around this decision. What happens if you wait another 6 months? What does this look like if you don't fix this problem a year from now? How does that impact your company? How does that impact you personally? What impact, if that affected your job, what impact would that have on you and your family? You're speaking to an emotional driver in their brain. And from a scarcity standpoint, of course, you can take your time to make a decision. Now, we only have so many account representatives. We only have so much capacity. So if you delay too long, I can't guarantee that we'll have that capacity for you. If you're ready to make a decision today, we can guarantee that you'll have that capacity and get you in. And that way you'll get the result that you're looking, which is X, Y, Z, and that gives you the benefit of A, B, C, and on and on. But it's scarce and urgency.
What I think I've heard to this point is we have a group of people that a lead can be very broadly defined in our category. And in a lot of those cases, we want to try to create some sense of urgency through scarcity and through urgency, and try to move people into a place of further closer to making a decision.
Yep.
Then there's a separate class of leads that have raised their hand, and they've done that by giving us a card at a convention. They've filled out a form on our website, etc. And so I want to talk about that second group of people for a second, because at that point they have signaled intent. Mm-hmm. However, it's sometimes really hard. They're busy people. We read the stat about 7 touches, but we don't always know what's the right way to do that. Help me think through solving that problem, Roger. Like, how would I go about understanding that somebody's already signaled, I don't want to be pushy, I don't want to be over the top, but I know I need to be persistent?
For sure. And I don't know about 7. The latest data I've seen, it's between 9, depending on if it's B2C or B2B, but it's between 9 and 13 touches. It continues to go up. It just continues to go up. To me, you have to get an upfront contract. What a beautiful opportunity. There's a human being standing in front of you, giving you a card. That's very different than somebody on the web filling out their information, and they're doing it at 12 o'clock at night, and they got a project they're trying to do, and maybe they're going to check this out. That's the point that you get an upfront contract. Hey, you're going to talk to a lot of people at this convention. You can see our booth has been really busy, and it's not, it has been really busy up until now. And when can we connect immediately after this conference? I'm going to fly back. You're going to fly back. We'll have to get some stuff knocked out. I'm sure we can both get back. But since you got your phone right there, I got my phone. Let's go ahead and get an appointment on the calendar, just to do a little bit of a discovery call. No need to bring your credit card to the phone call, but we just need to make sure that this is, we should take this further. And I've seen too many times at these shows where I can solve somebody's problem, but I can't get a hold of them. They call me back. They can't get a hold of me. Let's go ahead and get that booked right now. And then we can just go on with our convention, and you can find other vendors and others, to solutions of other issues you may have. But, you used the convention as an example. I would not leave that one-on-one meeting until I have something on the books. And nobody has an excuse now. I need to shut my calendar. Well, then pull out your damn phone, because it's on your phone. I know it's on your phone. And if they, if they refuse to do that, they're not really a highly qualified leader. They're not in that frame of mind. And I'll just add to that, and really tag onto a question that Stephanie asked. It's scarcity and urgency, and what I would put on top of those building blocks. I mean, those are the building blocks psychologically, but is an identity frame, and that is, and we're really getting to persuasion and influence versus lead nurturing. But you can do this through lead nurturing through the right emails and the right SMS sequences, and even the calls you leave. If you're not getting a call back, the voicemails you leave, I should say, if you're not getting a call back, you can use this identity frame of giving somebody an identity so that they'll live up to that identity, which is being a decision maker, being someone that, quickly ascertains what he or she needs and is ready to make a decision so that they can continue to grow their business. Especially if you're a founder selling a product or a service, you're probably selling it to, well, I shouldn't say probably, you may be selling it to a business, and you need to ensure that they have the same urgency that you do to move that. And a consumer, again, you have to build an identity for them so that they feel compelled to live up to that identity.
Stephanie, you've been mentioning like a trying to get people together in person. So if you're with somebody, I think it's a really smart move. What do you think?
Yeah, what comes to mind for me is like, what is the right nurture strategy, right? Like, what's the right nurture strategy for, we're doing a lot of guessing. Now, in person, one-on-one, I would argue that's a slightly different, it's a slightly different approach. It's you've got a lot more possibility there, and I think you can move a lot faster. But when we think about collecting leads online and whatever funnels you've put together, how do you know what nurturing looks like? How do you know what a nurture strategy is going to be that's going to get your clients eventually to a decision? Like, where does that come from?
Yeah. That very insightful question. And as you know, Stephanie, a lot of it, go back just 3 years, it was all A/B testing. You would get a campaign and you got it to work at a certain level. That's your benchmark. Okay, now that's our waterline. How do we get above that? And you only change one variable at a time. Don't change, all 17 emails in the sequence. You change one. Run that for 30 days. How does that go? And that's a slow process, but it's also a process that most businesses will not do. And I mean, Fortune 100 companies will not do. They just don't have the patience or the time for it, or they get distracted with other projects. And building that funnel correctly, A/B testing it is so important. What is amazing now is that we have AI, we have artificial intelligence that can do this at such a faster rate and model things for us and do so many simulations for us that we couldn't do in the past, or we had to do manually. And I've seen this with advertising, with digital advertising. You don't do A/B testing now. You're doing like A to triple Z testing. It's because you can take so many different creatives and pair them with so many different headlines and so many different sets of copy and run them all in this through an algorithm that will continue to feed it to enough people to see what combination of those works with what demographic. And that all used to had to be done manually before. And so I would say that, your funnel now, if you're not employing AI, you're already behind, but it's not too late. But if you're way late on adapting that, you're going to get passed by, because it's allowing us to run simulations at a zillion miles an hour that we had to do in 15 or 30-day increments in the past.
I would argue that the top accelerator for conversion and and the most effective piece of any sort of nurture that I've ever seen is when we can be very personalized and make that human being on the other end feel like we saw them. And like, it can be very, very simple for a small business too. I remember the only coach I ever hired was someone who I'd signed up for her list, and she sent me an email and she said, "Hey, I saw that you just signed up for my list, and I went and checked out your website and I saw these things about you, and that's really cool," and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, somebody paid attention to me. And then we became great friends, and, I did hire her and all that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
I'm finding in our communities of audiences, there's a huge desire and need to be known.
Mm,
And so how can we make people feel known at scale?
yeah. There is no substitute for now. One, you can have build an AI agent that would go out and scrape a website and find a couple of different things that are notable, and bring that into like an SMS message or an email that would be highly customized. But there is no substitute. I'm going to give you a really quick story. There's no substitute for that one-on-one. Way back, I'm talking when I had dark hair and was much younger, and I started in the pharmaceutical industry. I was trying to get this one doctor who wrote a lot of prescriptions to write my particular antibiotic when it was indicated, but I couldn't get to see the guy. Just wouldn't. I couldn't get to see him. But one day I was in his office, and this is like again 30 some years ago, and there was a Bob Dylan song playing, and I smiled at the receptionist. I said, "Bob Dylan, why you don't hear that often in doctors' offices?" And she goes, "Yeah, he's actually a huge Bob Dylan fan." I was like, "Huh." Didn't think anything about it again. That's back when you'd go to the record stores, right? And you'd flip through CDs and flip through and find things. And I was flipping through the Ds to look for something, and I came, but not on purpose. And I came across this new double live Dylan CD, recorded live Bob Dylan CD. Bought it. Next time I was in that area, I took it in, not gift wrapped. I just said, "Hey man, here's a note on it." I put a note on it. So just give that to Doctor. I can't think of his name, but give that to Dr. Smith or whatever. Tell him that I'm a fan too, and hopefully this, he'll like this. And if he really likes it, if he has time, back when he had cassettes, make me a cassette of it, because this was a CD. Then I literally get a call later that day, and of course went to my answering machine at home. We didn't have cell phones back then. Hey, come back, next time, can you come back and see me? And so I went back the next day. The guy turned into the biggest prescriber that I had, because it was personalized, right? The CD cost me like $12 or something. It was nothing. But it was personalized. So Stephanie, I'm with you 100%. Like personalization, lumpy mail, you can't go wrong. You just can't go wrong. And to scale that is very, very difficult. It's possible, unreasonable hospitality. It is possible, but it is definitely more challenging. And so when you can use something like artificial intelligence to customize something and add on to that, especially your top 100, your dream 100 that you're going for, and they get very customized lumpy mail, very customized messages and whatnot. But at scale, you're using, more artificial intelligence or more automations that are a little more generic in nature. I think that's when you win that dream 100, then you go to your next 100 and you start doing all that specialized, high touch, high effort, non-efficient, but a high return effort. That's how you go. To me, that's how we've scaled it. I focus on, yeah.
The point. So if we start to say, we now know that this person has some level of interest, what you've both been discussing is a concept that I used to call value stacking, which is you're just providing value to that person. And ideally you're providing value, I think Stephanie was what you're saying, which is very personalized and customized value in your story around that, Roger. But so for you, Roger, how do you think about just continuing to add value every step that you communicate with them? Because traditionally that's the way that you actually tip the scales of it is my time is worth something. I don't want to get on the phone with somebody, but if you just continue to provide enough value, you can tip those scales. Is that still how you think about it, Roger? And if so, how do you think about what value you're providing your potential prospect based on how you think about the psychology of this?
Yep. Another great question. You said you're going to have some great questions, and you do.
It's Stephanie. She messaged me.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I write it in crayon so he understands it.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, I would say that yes, of course, value will get you further. But I'm going to agree with Stephanie. We can't train people to always want something for free, or here's part of my service for free, or here is a sample of my product for free, a sizable sample. Where I've found, and this is across many different industries, is that the value that you provide does not have to be directly related to the service that you sell or the product that you sell. It has to be valuable to who you want to buy. And that may not be the value that you give them, may have nothing to do with what you sell, but they're still going to receive. Again, Bob Dylan has nothing to do with antibiotics, nothing. But that was hugely value for that doctor, right?
I don't know. I mean, Dylan probably was on some pretty hardcore antibiotics back then, based on what I know about his lifestyle.
This is true. This is true.
I'm gonna press here just a minute though, because I think it's less about value, and we're moving into this place where people want to be known, right? And so when I know you, like, that is one of our Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like top need is to be known and feel safe, right? So to be known is you could send me all sorts of valuable things and I'm not going to have time to read them, or I'm not going to, whatever, I'm not going to open them up. But so my friend Kendrick, she's a sales coach, and she says, all things being equal, friends buy from friends, right? And so how do I become known and feel like I know you? And I think that's the little nugget, right? It's not here's more value. It's like we've formed a bond, and this is something that I just do naturally in life. Is I become known to people and I know them quite quickly, and so when I have those personal relationships, I think people are more likely to buy from me. But how do you, again, it comes down to how do we do this at scale? And I think it's an interesting problem to solve, because I think we are moving away. I come from the internet marketing world and all the things, right? But I think we're moving away from value creation, and we're moving into a relationship-based economy and trust. And I know all of those things existed before, but we can't do them with PDFs anymore. We can only do them with some type of, some type of knowing. That's my philosophy anyway.
She forgets my name every time that we come on. She's like, "What? Who are you?"
Yeah. So I would actually, my counterpoint to that is, I don't disagree with what you said, but my counterpoint to that is, Maslow's hierarchy, and it is, people want to be seen and they want to be understood and valued. That not to get value, they want to be, valued as a human being. And you can do that through your funnel, your lead optimization funnel, to get them through the funnel and to turn them into a client. And value in our conversation today may have been a little bit, I may have misconstrued what I'm trying to say is that value is saying, here's an article I saw, again, that this doesn't cost you anything, but that we had talked about before we went live here. We were talking about where each of us live. And so if I were to see an article in Denver about something that was happening in Denver and East Colorado that you mentioned earlier, and just forwarded that on email and said, "Hey, I saw this, made me think of you. Man, a lot interesting what's going on over there," and send that to you, you're going to think, man, he remembered the first of our conversation before we even went live. So Stephanie, I think I'm violently agreeing with you, right? that personalization is absolutely needed. And you can use some automation and AI to do that. And there is no substitution for just going the freaking extra mile and doing things that are not expected.
I agree. And I think that there's this is my little engineer brain right now trying to solve this problem for my own business, one of my businesses, because we've got a massive list of tens of thousands of people, but I can't get them to buy anything. And I'm trying to deconstruct what I'm hearing within our community. We have a membership and we have 900 people in there. And what I'm hearing from them and their desire for connection. And so this starts to open up interesting new philosophies around selling and lead nurturing, where I use the people who have already bought in to sell to the people who haven't, right? So there's all this interesting construction. And then how can we collect and use data in a way that allows us to create that personalization and that knowing without it, and doing it at scale, right? Without it being I'm reading every email and I'm creating some personalized response. I think people even saying, "Oh, I saw that you live in Denver, I'm so sorry. And, you could create all that stuff, right? Because that data is already available to you. Anyway, it's just an interesting, I find it's like, I've been in the internet marketing world. I have a degree in internet marketing from 1998, like right when the internet was still just becoming a thing. And I would say fundamentally a lot hasn't changed, but of course we have new tools and new access and new people and new awareness and all of that sort of thing, but the concepts are still there. So I think we're just about on a new cusp of the whole concept of lead generation, lead nurturing, lead conversion that is very, very human centered.
100% agree. And genuineness and authenticity, even self-deprecation in your communication, where they realize, oh, this is a real human being that's also fallible, just like me as a prospect.
I'm not, but Chris can.
I love it. I love it.
I'm making enough mistakes for the rest of us.
Awesome.
Together.
Chris,
I want to get to the speed round, but
I think you're frozen right now.
How about now?
You're good. You're good.
So I want to get to the speed round, but I want to ask you a question first around the idea that what do we get wrong? Because we hear all these statistics about people that just fail at this miserably. And if I'm hearing from you all correctly, it's just an opportunity for us to add value and be personal. What are the biggest mistakes that you see along the way, Roger?
I can tell you right now, it's persistency. I can't help but use metaphors and stories because I think that's how people learn and remember things better. My son is on the West Coast chasing the music dream and fully self-supportive out there. He was home visiting. He's like in his early 20s. He was home visiting, and I was driving him back to the airport a few months ago. And he said, Dad, what advice do you have for me before I head back to LA? And I said, son, I remember where we were, as I said this, I said, this game that you're playing is no different than business. It's the business of music. You are in this world that will have natural attrition. And all of these kids, they went to like this 1-year music production school. And I said, all these other kids from Iowa and Kansas and Denver and Vancouver and everywhere, at some point they're going to get sick of being a waiter or a waitress, and they're going to run out of money. But more importantly, they're going to run out of confidence and belief, and they're going to move back home. And at the end of the day, you're going to look around and there'll be no one else there, and you'll be standing on top of the mountain with your production deal, and you'll have achieved your dream. But it's going to happen long after you want it to occur, and it's going to take way more grit than you can even imagine, because it's no different than business. And I would tell anybody listening that business and nurturing your leads and getting new clients is a game of attrition that, my experience, 90+% of people, they just quit. They don't quit at the same time. They just start to fall off. And if you don't, and you continue to pursue your particular leads, your particular industry, your company as a founder, you will be successful. You can't lose if you don't quit. It is going to hurt so much more than you want it to. It's not going to look like you thought it was when you did your vision board and all that stuff, but you'll win if you don't quit, because 95% of the people will quit. And by default, you're hanging out with the 5% of winners, and you'll win. And that was my advice to my son. And that'd be my advice to your listeners is all the stuff we talked about. Yeah, you got to get all that right. That's table stakes. Where the rubber meets the road is doing it every day when it sucks and you want to quit, but you don't.
Good place for us to transition. Are you ready, Roger, for the speed round? I'm going to read you a series of questions.
You didn't even give him a chance to say he was. I mean, this is
I just hit it.
Dramatic, emotional time in our show.
I clearly need some help from your son about production value.
That was good. That's good.
So I'll read you a series of questions. Just answer first thing that pops into your brain. Follow up fast or wait a couple of days?
Follow up fast. 5 minutes or less.
Touch or automation?
When you can, personal touch. When you scale, automation.
Push for close or nurture for longer?
Push for close and then reevaluate if that doesn't happen.
Discount or value add?
Value add.
Multiple channels or focus on one channel?
Focus on one channel and dominate that, then go to the next one.
I like it. Really good conversation. Stephanie, what did you learn today?
What did I learn? Well, I learned that the number one mistake is that businesses just don't follow up. They assume that everyone's ready to buy or that they already trust you, and then they get frustrated and then they give up. And we're in a trust recession right now. I think that's sort of part of the later conversation that we had. And knowing that, it means that we need to reevaluate what we're doing. A lead is an opportunity to help somebody. Scarcity and urgency still drive behavior, and people still need a little push in order to make a decision. And I would also say that like the decision that they make is like, what does it say about them? So that's an important part of that conversation. Using identity frames to know how to nurture leads. So what's the identity frame for the lead that you have? Use A/B testing, changing one thing at a time to figure out your most optimal funnels and your most optimal nurturing strategies. There's no substitute for one-on-one, so we need to try and emulate that feeling of being known, even if we're scaling. And then finally, persistence is the number one indicator of success when you are nurturing leads.
I like it. Deep dive recommendations. The one that we've all read, but is certainly worth the read, is Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini. He's just the best. To Sell is Human by Daniel Pink. The Psychology of Selling by Brian Tracy. Great book. Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. But of course, we're all going to go to Amazon right now and we're going to buy a book called The Insider's Guide to Business: Secrets from an Entrepreneur's Playbook, written by you, Roger. And we just learned off air, you actually wrote a book, which I don't think anybody does anymore.
No, it's all me, no AI. And even though I talked a lot about AI today, no AI and no ghostwriter, and all the profits from this book, An Insider's Guide to Business, go to a charity called To Write Love on Our Arms, which is a charity to help people that are struggling with their mental health.
I have a shirt from To Write Love on Our Arms.
Yep. That's RockBox Fitness is that national charity partner.
Yep. That is terrific. Where can we learn more about you? Where can we connect? Where can we get you to help us build this incredible personalized value-added cultivation strategy?
Sure. You can find me on the socials at Real Roger Martin, ROGER, no D, and LinkedIn as well. And then our website for Thrive More Autopilot is thrivemore.ai. Thrivemore.ai. And then if you're interested in RockBox Fitness, just to learn more about franchising and kind of what that is, that's rockboxfitness.com.
Such a good conversation, Roger. Thank you for joining us today. I learned a bunch, and I appreciate so much you putting up with our dad jokes.
No, I love it. Love it.
This is great.
And thank you all. Yeah, thanks so much for listening. Please be sure to visit us on howtofounder.com, where you can connect with us on LinkedIn and subscribe to our YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify channels. And remember, we believe that you're the pioneer of economic prosperity. We are so grateful for you being with us all along the way, and we wish you all of the best of luck.